the great moral quandary I have is, as a child, I also rooted for the Dodgers growing up there.
Oof.
Can I make that jump? Can I jump from an adult fan of the Angels to an adult fan of the Dodgers?
I don't think so.
I'm Arizona Family political editor Dennis Welch.
Dennis, fake news Welch. Try to tell the truth.
And this is the Politics Unplugged podcast.
Dennis, if you have a problem with substance abuse, I am more than willing to talk to you anytime you need.
Welcome back to another edition of the Politics Unplugged podcast. And today, we've got a great guest, Richard Ruelas, longtime writer for the Arizona Republic. And Richard, thanks for being here. And man, I never thought I'd be on a podcast, with a Nancy Guthrie angle, but you wrote a really, really interesting story, and I wanted to talk to you about it. So
thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming by here. And your story, the rest of your story, is about how these streamers, this new kind of like journalist, has just descended on this media circus that is down in Tucson. That is this Nancy Guthrie case. I don't feel like I have to do any background explaining on this. I think everybody's well aware of this. But talk to me. What was the general theme from your story about what you saw down there?
Well, yeah. I mean, I get down there in the first few days after the disappearance, and this is Catalina Foothills. It is very narrow streets. Mm-hmm. It's almost like
as you described, no sidewalks.
No sidewalks, no street lights. Closest we would have to it is like the winding roads around Paradise Valley or Cave Creek. But these homes are built in harmony with the desert, and they're not meant to accommodate a lot of traffic. So you get there and there is traffic, and there is what you would expect. The crews and television shows up with a lot of lights and a lot of equipment and sound, and so they're just stationed along the street. A few days in, I started seeing another type of person holding their phone up, talking constantly, setting the phone up on a tripod, and walking around. And I paid only a little attention to it at first, and then people back in our shop in the newsroom were saying, it's worth watching some of these, especially the one that I featured, JLR Investigates, because he's constantly streaming a picture of the home. So at the very least, we know if there's activity, so we can go be other places. But it not only was JLR Investigates there, more started coming in, trying to investigate the case, solve the case, and then at night, there's another group of shows that are starting up. Ashley Banfield, who used to be on CNN and MSNBC, she has a show. There's a few others that are starting up their true crime podcast, their detective work, and they are naming names. They are naming people they believe are suspects. And that was intriguing, especially when you see law enforcement, Sheriff Nanos, come out and ask, he used the blanket term of the media. I'd like to ask the media to stop accusing the family of this. I'd like the media to stop accusing so-and-so of this. And what he meant was this community. So it was intriguing to me to see what they're reporting and how they go about it, and the people who are watching it, what they're looking for.
I mean, because it's a relative. This is like kind of a new thing to see the live streamers like descend on something like this, right? But I mean, it begs the old question of the old argument, like, what is a journalist? This kinds of things. And you point out there's some distinct differences there. I mean, the Republic had heard a lot of the same rumors and got a lot of the same tips that the streamers are getting. The point is, Republic doesn't report on that. You'll run it down to see if there's something there, but there's some editorial restraint there where there is none with some of these or most of these live streamers.
Right, and I think, it's almost like as if they're ripping the cover off of our newsrooms. We get a lot of tips. We run down names. We run down blind alleys sometimes. They take their viewers and listeners along with them. I'm not saying that that's the wrong approach. I'm saying it's a different approach and their audience seems to like going along on the ride. An example I pointed out in the story, the day that they released the footage of the person on Nancy Guthrie's doorstep, that black and white images and audio video, that evening there was some activity down in the community of Rico, about an hour south of Tucson, which I was there till about 1 a.m. until that wrapped up. But before then, in our newsroom, a flight tracker showed a helicopter leaving Tucson Airport, going to Rico, and landing at the hospital, at a hospital in Tucson. Well, if that is a recovery of Nancy Guthrie, or if that's them taking a suspect into custody who needs medical attention, we should probably be at the hospital. Yeah. I went to the hospital. There were other media who was setting up, hearing the same tip, seeing the same data. There was no law enforcement there, so pretty much concluded this is unrelated. Whatever brought this person to the hospital, this is likely not related to the Guthrie case.
There was, like you reported, there was no other media, there was no other law enforcement out there, which would have been highly unlikely if you're bringing a suspect in this high-profile case. Right. You'd see some people parked out, some cops parked in the parking lot.
Right. Had they brought the suspect in, had they rescued Nancy Guthrie, there would be detectives, there would be a show of law enforcement.
Yeah.
There was not. What I did see was JLR Investigates leaning outside of his truck saying, I'm at the hospital and whatever he reported. Again, we told them in this story that you're mentioning, as a sort of a contrast between what JLR was broadcasting and some of these streamers are broadcasting and what we normally do. But we didn't tell our audience, oh, we chased a blind alley. We chased a lead that didn't go anywhere. And that's one example. I think where it's more concerning, and especially to Sheriff Nanos, it's more concerning, is the fact that they're accusing people by name of being involved in this when there's no evidence they are.
Yeah, because I think, even in traditional reporting, be it on in newspapers, online, what you do, or TV, what I do, I think, viewers enjoy if you take some process of like explaining what you went through maybe to get a story like that. That ends, though, when you start talking about libeling somebody or slandering somebody. When you go with those kinds of facts, there is editorial restraint on our side. We're not going to accuse people without fact of this, and that seemed like a really key difference. Like reading this piece, and I'm wondering, are there ramifications for these true crime hobbyists for doing this?
We'd have to have the First Amendment expert on. You and I are First Amendment practitioners.
Love the First Amendment.
And we have
Big 1A.
And we have attorneys around us who might advise us on what to do.
Yeah.
Here, I don't know whether we could consider Savannah Guthrie is definitely a public figure. I don't know about her family being public figures, and this is definitely a case that's in the public interest. These people are still practicing what they would say is a form of journalism. They would be protected by the First Amendment. But if you're a Guthrie relative who might have been smeared, or even not the relatives, other people that they're naming, I don't know if they would have an action against them. And you see with varying media, we all make, within our newsrooms, internal decisions. And the listeners, viewers, readers may notice there's subtleties in the way each house covers it. There have been 2 people who have been detained by authorities and then released. The Republic hasn't named those individuals. Other media have, and possibly rightly so, because one of them has an attorney who put a statement out saying this person who I'm representing is clear. The Republic has chosen not to name that individual. Other traditional media have. And definitely if you go on these streams, they are dissecting these people's lives to think this might be the key to solving the case.
I mean, what are you hearing during your reporting? You've been down there, you did this story. What are you hearing about streamers? Are they affecting, and you talked a little bit about this in the piece, are they affecting the investigation at all?
they are serving, to what law enforcement says, they're serving as a distraction. And there was something this week that the sheriff's office and the FBI said, please send us tips that might be relevant. I don't know whether that's coming from people watching this around the country, people watching these streams and saying, have you checked this detail out that was mentioned on this stream or not? And we've definitely heard lawmakers, Alma Hernandez from the legislature told these streamers, she, again, painted a broad brush. The media should go away. But she's really seemed to be aimed at these individuals. The person who was of interest in Rico did an interview with another station and said that people are coming to his house in Rico. People are following him around Tucson as he makes deliveries. Again, trying to see, is he implicated? You would think that both of the people who were of interest had criminal records, so their DNA is likely in the criminal database, which authorities have said hasn't matched any DNA found at the Guthrie property. So it seems like they're cleared, even though no one officially other than the Guthrie family has been cleared. But people want to solve this case, and with the lack of solid information coming from authorities, then there's got to be something to fill that void. Sheriff Nanos promised early on they'd have a news conference every other day, and that was more than a week ago.
Yeah, these aren't a lot of the folks you profiled here. A couple of folks they're not professional journalists. Like you have one woman who does this kind of as a side hustle. She makes chairs and furniture and stuff like that, and does this kind of on the side. And when there is no news, it's got to be very tempting just to fill that with speculation and all sorts of other unsubstantiated rumors.
Yeah, there was, again, another example that's mentioned in the story. One of the first days I was at the Guthrie property, I walked up to the front door of the house, and I guess I'll tell how that happened because maybe that's relevant to this. But I was standing outside the Guthrie house with a few other reporters, and we were listening to the Sheriff Nanos news conference. He mentioned that a doorbell camera looked to have been missing from the front door. We're standing on the street, looking at the house, and thinking, from here I think I can see something that looks like a mount, but we're not sure. And it happened to be a journalist from Inside Edition next to me, and we realized, there's no crime scene tape up. Nothing is preventing us from walking up to the front door. So gingerly, we did. I beat the Inside Edition reporter to the front door. I don't know what that says about me, but
you're an old school aggressive reporter.
But it was tentative. Oh. Part of me thought maybe I shouldn't be here, but there's nothing that stops us from knocking on a front door as a reporter. So I went up to the front door, noticed an Amazon package on the stoop, saw the empty mount, and I'm using my phone to get all this. And it wasn't right away that I noticed the blood.
Wow.
Later confirmed to be blood and later confirmed to be Nancy Guthrie's blood on the Spanish tile of the stoop. So, we had all that. I also noticed there was a business card in the door, and it was from Adult Protective Services, and it gave the name or the initial and a name of a case manager and a phone number. I thought that was intriguing. Why would Adult Protective Services have visited the house? I called the number, and a case manager told me, no, we put that card there later, like someone referred us, so here's a older person living alone in case they need assistance. When they return home safely, they can contact us in case there's something to be had here. We didn't report that because it didn't seem germane. Days later, JLR Investigates sees a photo of that same business card, but for lack of information and corroboration, it becomes a topic of conversation. Was there an open elderly abuse case? There wasn't. But it's, for lack of something else to talk about, it was interesting.
Even raising those questions, you've been in the media long enough, you've been working in press long enough, even raising questions, like, I'm just asking questions. can do a lot of damage.
Well, and I think, you talk about, I don't know whether you need, the people at the Cronkite School will be mad at me for saying this. I don't know whether you need professional training to do it. It's a practice that we do, but we are in an environment where we have fellow reporters, we have colleagues, we have editors who are there to make sure that we hold up a certain standard, that are there to serve as guardrails for us. So I think that's one thing that I think we have internally when we're out reporting, because we know we work for an institution that expects a certain standard. But that's something that is not apparent here, that there doesn't seem to be that sort of discretion to say, maybe I shouldn't be speculating about this.
Yeah, because we've said over and over for years, we, the collective journalists, I know, you, me, this is a trade. You can call it a profession if you want, but it's a trade. It's like carpentry or something like that. You got to learn how to, in carpentry, you got to learn how to cut wood, man.
Yeah,
and you got to cut wood before you get better at it, right?
Yeah, and we get good at doing it. But again, like I think every time I'm at a scene where there's journalists from other organizations, whether they're national or what kind of, it seems like we all speak the same language. We know what we're all here for. We all understand the trade. We understand what we're doing. We do, though, make different decisions. We're all there for different reasons. TMZ was there. They wanted a photo of Savannah Guthrie, and they weren't that interested in much else, right? Because that's what their audience was looking for. And people are there with a national focus or a more Tucson focus. We do make different decisions, right? And sources tell us things that maybe they don't tell other outlets. I mean, your own Brianna Whitney reported that sources told her that they're looking at whether this was a burglary gone bad. She's not reporting that because it's fun or it's just rampant speculation. Sources told her that. And she, I imagine, had to go to her editor, her bosses, her colleagues, and say, is this good enough to go with? And then it makes the air, despite what officials might say. So,
I mean, this is stream of conscious stuff with some of these streamers, no pun intended. It's like this guy, your JLR Investigates, he's just walking down the street, just vamping.
Right. I mean, at one point, and this is in there, like he's talking about walking the desert wash. I don't know what he was expecting to find, but he saw a coyote. And then he's like, whoa, there's a coyote.
Yeah.
And then he just sort of, again, to fill the time, said, things are happening, folks. Things are happening.
Let's get into this, and with who this guy is. You dug up some fascinating stuff on this guy.
Well, that's the other thing we do. If we're going to write about someone, we, as we call it, run their name. We run them through court records. We run them through that just to see what's out there. So this gentleman filed a lawsuit against Representative Gabrielle Giffords. Again, a major incident in Tucson, the attempted assassination at a Safeway. He filed suit posing as Jared Loughner, the gunman, and seeking $25 million against her. He pleaded guilty to, he pleaded guilty to that. I forget the name of the charge now, but essentially posing as someone else. And he was sentenced to probation. I was going to include that fact in the story. And again, this is what we do in our trade. This is what my company would expect me to do. I went back to him on the scene and told him, by the way, so you're not surprised, we are going to include your felony in the story. He acknowledged, he said he didn't have much to say about it. He had served his time. And then he told me that he committed that felony while he was in prison on his other felony. He only got probation? Wow, okay. Right. It was wire fraud was the previous felony, and he was in prison for that. And he said that essentially to pass the time, he and other inmates would just file joke lawsuits, posing as famous people suing each other. And he admitted this one was probably in bad taste, went a little too far. Again, though, I mean, I found that out by doing what we do. If someone's going to be the target of a story and there might be an unpleasant fact about them in there, it's probably worth getting their reaction to that fact. So I drove back to the scene simply for that reason, and it ended up yielding more information, him talking more about putting the crime in context that he pled guilty to. That's the kind of thing that I know that the live streamers aren't doing.
I mean, is this the future of journalism? I mean, because, this is, you see more and more of them. I've seen more and more of folks like this, maybe not doing live streams down to Capitol and committee hearings and stuff like that, but they're down there. They're shooting, pieces down there. They're all over the place.
Yeah, we've seen it at rallies. I mean, I think even during like the COVID rallies that were asking to reopen the Capitol, there were a lot of I actually found it more useful to watch the live streams than actually be down there myself, because they're on all these places and you can go back and they're able to be there. This man had 40,000 views, 25,000 views for a picture of a house. That's not an insignificant number of people watching a program that might not have the most compelling content. He has 500,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel.
Wow.
There are people who want to pursue this. I happen to find there was some fans of his who came down and gave him a candy bar, and I talked to this woman who said, yes, I essentially know that much of what is on his stream might not be true, but I appreciate going on the journey. She was watching the day he showed up at the hospital for the helicopter that landed that had nothing to do with this case. She was just glad to be along for the ride. I don't know whether there's something those of us in traditional media can learn from it. Maybe we do need to be a little more transparent about how we do our job, what we're doing, but to just, I don't know whether we're going to be broadcasting our news meetings at the Republic or you guys broadcasting your budget meetings as you figure out what goes on the air or we figure out what goes on the website and in the paper.
Yeah, there was another thing I was going to ask you about that too, because that stood out to me too, that she, when they said, well, we're just I wanted to go along for the ride. And you just accept that some of the stuff they're going to say just isn't true.
Yeah.
And we grew up in a professionally, grew up literally in kids in a world where the New York Times was all the news that's fit to print. This is very different from that.
This is the fire hose. And for a case like this, I don't think people would be tuning in. I mean, obviously, viewers could tune into the State Commerce Committee, right? That's also live streamed. But there's not as much interest in that.
That's reality television. That's reality television too, man.
The third read of the bills at the Capitol doesn't get this kind of viewership typically. But in a case like this, people do want what we call turn of the screw coverage. People do want any little nugget of information they can get. Some of the power of these streams could be diminished had officials been speaking at a more regular cadence and been more open with the investigation. I understand there's probably legitimate reasons why they are not. As frustrating as it might be for the public and for us as journalists to not have regular news conferences about the case, there's probably a very legitimate reason that, they're interested in solving it, not so much in talking to us. But with the lack of that, then people are going to fill in and try to find out a reason why there's not a lot of legitimate information coming out. They're going to try to find any information.
Yeah, well, and what else struck you while you were down there, covering this? Because it has been a media circus. It's been a feeding frenzy for media there for a while now. And 3 weeks, and what do we know? She's missing, still missing. We don't know who. We don't have any real suspects.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I was sent down to Rico, the way that day turned out in the morning, now time is a bit of an abstract now, but that day, the sun was up. I forget if it was morning or early afternoon. They released the images and the video. And there's something about not just the still picture of a person in a mask and a flashlight and a gloves. But the fact we could see this person move, people move in a very unique way. Someone's gait. I really thought this is it. They're going to find out who this is.
Mm-hmm.
So when hours later they tell us they're down in Rico, they told the media where to go. And they normally don't do that unless they think this is it. The pace of the day seemed to be that this ends tonight. They're telling the media to go to Rico and to park here, stage here.
Mm-hmm.
Those are clues that they're expecting something major is going to happen and you will want to be here for it.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bean burrito that I ate while I was down there. It was a little lukewarm, but very good still. These are my issues. But I expected I was going to be there all night because who knows what they're going to find.
Yeah, I mean, those are all clues. When you're like, you stage over here, they said about, I get where you're at.
But the fact then that they released the person who they detained, and I watched him drive up, identify himself, and say, I was the guy detained. I need to get back into my house. He held a little news conference in front of all of us and said, I have no idea what's going on. We're clear. Then there was another incident like that a few days later. It certainly seemed like we were culminating to the end of this. And it seems like, and as frustrating as it is, again, for the public and us, for the family to think we're here, and then you slide back down to the bottom, and we're not sure where they are with the investigation. We're not sure who they are focused on or what they're doing to get whoever this is and to find Nancy Guthrie.
You care to speculate, why do people get so invested in a story like this to the point where there's 44,000 people watching some guy just talk about coyotes and a kidnapping?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I mean, JLR said it's mystery.
Yeah,
it's a mystery, and I think with other crimes that have gone on that I've covered, you've covered, our outlets have covered, we know what happened. We typically know what happens in a story, as tragic as it might be. It's a story we're covering in which the ending is the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We know exactly what happened. Here, we don't know what happened. We know a person was taken, but we don't know why. We don't know how, and we don't know where. And we don't know about the person who did it. And I think it's those haunting questions that are keeping people intrigued to see how this resolves and if we can know what we're dealing with here, what this was.
Yeah. And the streamers are just providing that, just filling that void of information with whatever speculation.
They will continue talking about it, right? I mean, I think it becomes harder to keep the coverage of this case going if there are not new developments. I noted that this week it wasn't the top story on the Today Show where you would think this would be what they lead with, but other stories, we have a member of the royal family being arrested. Mm-hmm. Other stories there are going to start coming in and taking in some of that oxygen. And I think for those who want to keep the tips coming in, who want to get someone to talk to authorities, I know who did it, and here's the information. It is necessary to keep people focused on the case, talking about the case. These streamers are definitely doing that for their audience.
All right. We'll end it there. But I do have to ask you one personal question, if you don't mind. This goes back a number of years. There used to be this very august body, this privileged society, this really important group, I believe it's called Journalists Who Drink. Have you heard any rumors about if they could be convening again anytime soon?
We actually, the name of it was changed to the Journalists Temperance Union.
Oh, yes.
And we would hold our meetings and hold fast at Monty's La Casa Vieja for several years. We'll see what we can do. You and I can start it later on tonight.
Would love to. Would love to do that. We just have to pick a new place because Monty's no longer...
It doesn't exist.
No.
We could just sit outside the building. See how long it takes us to get kicked out. But that goes way back.
Yeah.
Back in your print stain days.
I know.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. I missed the uneven floors of Monty's. You remember that? Did I get that? It was like the floors were kind of uneven and sunken.
You could get lost trying to find your way around Monty's.
Yeah.
There's probably still people wandering around the building.
Probably are been lost in there for a long time. All right, we'll end it there. It's always great talking to you, Richard. Thanks for stopping by here.
Thank you, Dennis.
Give us some perspective on this. And anybody who's not familiar, check out the story. It's called Streamer Speculation. Misinformation pervades Nancy Guthrie coverage. It's on the Easy Central website. Go check it out. Welcome back to the second half of the podcast here. I want to thank Richard for stopping by here. A really interesting story. To get your thoughts about, Colin, these live streamers. I mean, you've been tangentially involved in some of the coverage, I assume, with Guthrie. I mean, these folks getting in the way, it seems like a lot of the stuff that they put out there, some of it catches a little bit of fire, and then that gives legacy media work to knock it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating as a member of the legacy media, traditional media, however you want to put it, actual media.
Yeah.
When we see stuff coming out from the police department complaining about the media and like, okay, that was some streamer jackass. That, we all look bad when the sheriff comes out and says, hey, would the members of the media not have a pizza delivered to the house? We have a pizza delivery guy walking through evidence.
Well, that pizza was delivered to the guy Richard was talking about.
It was, and then and so everyone got a big laugh at that or disgust or whatever.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't do that. It's lousy, and the media knows better. And this wasn't the media. This was a guy with an iPhone. And then a few days later, someone got Starbucks delivered, and I think it was the same guy. And in somewhat defense to him, my understanding is he's not ordering it there. His viewers are sending it there for him.
His fans.
And at the center of all this, there's a woman out there who's missing under violent circumstances. Like, when it turns into this level of stupid entertainment, there's something very disturbing about that.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of crime stories, just for a number of reasons I don't need to get into. I get it. People are into it. No judgment, whatever. And they're important stories in our lives, in our communities and whatnot.
Yeah.
But, when you're on like 3 weeks and like, what do you know? She's missing still.
She's still missing.
And it's hard because there's still a demand for more information, and I get that. But what happens when you can't provide that demand? And these live streamers are just filling that void.
Yeah. And it's a strange case in that after 3 weeks, the one substantive bit of information we got after the initial story was the release of the stills and the video from the cameras. And that was, I think, 8 days in?
No.
Something like that?
There was two major developments. There was that, and then there was a suspect who was released.
Yeah. They've had the occasional, they've questioned some guy and went, oh, all right, go.
Yeah. They found a glove 2 miles away from the house and tested the DNA on it.
And who knows who it belongs to. And in the process, my understanding is they found more than a dozen other gloves that were mostly discarded by investigators.
Yeah.
So, in terms of stuff that moves the investigation forward that we've been informed of, and I guess the ransom notes. You got the ransom notes and you've got the still images. And other than that, it's a car was towed away. Is it connected? Don't know.
Yeah.
They searched a car at a Culver's parking lot. Connected?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, these kinds of stories, these big crime feeding frenzy stories, you do lose sight of victims sometimes. We big political story, the big story in politics is the Epstein files.
Yeah.
And, when people start focusing in on what the president knew or didn't know or his relationship with it, but forget that there are a lot of women who were victimized.
Yeah.
And are still paying the price and living with that pain.
Yeah. A number of them were there in the Pam Bondi hearing when Pam Bondi acknowledged that she hadn't talked to any of them, but then started yelling that the Dow was over 50,000. How dare you ask me about this investigation? Yeah. It would be nice to pay a little more respect to the victims and not turn everything into a clown show.
Yeah, you know, in this case too, you know, the Guthrie case, there's an 84-year-old woman may or may not be alive right now.
Yeah.
And that's sad. And, you know, and it just so happens, like, you know, her daughter is famous, so it gets the attention. Just on its own, whether her daughter is famous or not, man, it's just really sad.
Yeah.
An 84-year-old woman doesn't, nobody deserves this, you know, and I think Richard was right. You know, why are people connecting so much with this? Because we don't really know anything. Yeah. Most crime stories, you do know what happened. A bank was robbed.
Yeah.
You know, or somebody was murdered, or you just know someone was taken here, and that's it.
Yeah. And it's strange in that she's gone. We have no clue why. Investigators don't seem to publicly have any clue what happened here. Mm-hmm. I would certainly assume they know more than we do. But we're 3 weeks in, and they just seem kind of dumbfounded. Yeah. Despite having, as Richard said, we got the guy walking around on video. You know, we've obviously he had the ski mask on, but we've seen him. We've seen how he moves. We've seen the equipment he had. He's right. When I saw that, I thought, well, this is probably about over. Mm-hmm. No, they don't seem to have made any progress whatsoever from there.
No, and, you know, and I mean, that would be the slight political angle in on this because, you know, Arizona does elect their sheriffs. I mean, you know, does Nanos run again after this? I mean, he legitimately could. I mean, he's been in law enforcement for a long time, and admittedly, I don't know much about politics down in Tucson, and particularly these kinds of Pima County politics. You know, he's been in law enforcement for a long time. Could be just fed up after this and not want to run. Yeah. Or, voters down there just may not be happy. This is a very high-profile case.
It is.
And I don't know. I would guess, again, this is speculation, folks. I mean, I would guess if there was a poll out there that there's not a lot of people that are satisfied with the way that this investigation has been handled so far.
No, I mean, there's been very, very little progress. I understand the reasons why it took 8 days to see the images, but that still didn't look great. Mm-hmm. I mean, there were technical reasons, but yeah, and plus, you know, vowing to hold a news conference every other day to keep people updated and then not. Mm-hmm. You know, he's been doing Fox News interviews, but he's not showing up to a news conference.
And explain this to me, because I didn't pay much attention to this part, but did he take heat for going to a U of A basketball game?
Oh, that I don't know.
Because I don't know. I kind of remember, yeah, I think I saw it was a picture of him at a basketball game, and I guess people were outraged.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about that, folks.
Yeah, the outrage would seem misplaced, but I also sort of get it. I would say one other somewhat political angle to this is when you bring in the FBI to help, that used to be viewed as a positive step. And
we live in different times, sir.
I would politely suggest that when you take away the leadership of the FBI and replace them with podcast hosts, I mean, we host a podcast. Doesn't mean we're qualified to go lead a murder investigation or a kidnapping investigation or whatever it is we're dealing with. And the FBI comes in, puts a couple dudes in charge who they got the job because they praised Trump on their podcasts, and then drummed out a lot of people who had devoted their lives to investigating crimes for the FBI. And here we are with a kidnapping case with a certainly decent amount of evidence, and it would seem no one has any clue whatsoever what happened.
Wait, this is not, it's not just the president here. Remember, Patel had to be confirmed by the Senate. Yeah. So remember, a lot of people voted for this.
Yeah.
In the Senate. So I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
But could you...
And to be fair, the president could have nominated a ham sandwich to run the FBI, and he would have gotten the votes.
Probably.
And perhaps might have been a more effective choice.
I knew you were going to say that. Can you imagine, though, man, somebody listens to this podcast and be like, they should run my campaign. Oh, boy, would that be a mistake.
Maybe Robeson should have done that.
Ooh, now there's some speculation I can get behind.
Yeah. Yeah. fill up that pantsuit yet.
You're going to get me in more trouble, dude.
If she gets back in the race, then we won't get the interview still.
Yeah, I mean, but in fairness, I hear she pays her contractors, unlike other high-profile politicians.
Oh, that's good. It's positive.
But yeah, I just can't imagine that. It's like somebody listening to us chatting like this. Like, that's the kind of sharp. I like the cut of their jibs.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thinking we need on this campaign. Go hire them. Like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, probably not happening anytime soon. But head of the FBI, sure. Come on in.
There's no way I could run the FBI, man. No, maybe some smaller agency, possibly I could run that.
DHS.
Yeah.
How hard can it possibly be?
What do you think the clothing stipend is to run DHS?
I don't know how much of those stupid hats.
I mean, there's a lot of uniforms that she wears.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's Coast Guard, it's full Coast Guard gear.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, man, that Noem story about the Coastie?
Yeah.
Did you read that?
Yeah.
How come that's not a bigger deal? And if you're not familiar with this, apparently there's some reporting. Was it NBC or was it Wall Street Journal? I think it was NBC. Reported that there was a search and rescue operation going on
off the coast of Oregon. I think.
Off the coast of Oregon, some Coast Guard, somebody from the Coast Guard had gone overboard and was missing. They were searching for him. And Noem made the decision to call off some resources, a plane that was being used or could have been used in the search, because according to this reporting, it was needed for deportation flights.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to keep the numbers up, man.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it is. But like, I look around. I mean, why is it getting more attention? I don't know. I mean, today the Supreme Court said that tariffs are illegal. So Trump held a news conference, told them all they were pathetic and embarrassments, and announced he was raising the tariffs.
A global 10% tariff. I saw that push. Like, wow, man.
Yeah. Noem letting a Coast Guard guy potentially die because we got to keep the numbers of deportations up. There's a lot of crazy shit that's competing for space now, man.
Jesus Christ, dude. It is.
And if you're going to cover crazy Noem stories, like, is that going to top the plane they're buying?
And if you haven't seen that, go check it out. There's some pictures. I think NBC is reporting on this too. Pictures of this. It was a 737 jet,
something like that.
One of those jets, and it's the one that she uses. Man, it is posh.
It's been converted into like a Manhattan penthouse that flies.
Yeah, it is posh.
And their explanation is no. It's not simply so Kristi Noem can use it to fly around with her trusted advisor,
Corey Lewandowski, whom I guess she's living with, or rumors?
I don't. I think they were living across the street from each other at some point.
Okay. There's a lot of rumors about this too.
Plenty of rumors about this.
Go Google it.
But anyway, no, they're saying it's certainly not just so they can fly around in luxury. They need these for deportations. They're going to use the plane for deportations. So, I mean, at least if you're getting kicked out of the country, you'll enjoy the king-size bed with the 2 bidets in the plane. And I guess the people who are being deported can just sit on the variety of leather couches and.
I wish we got to get something here with this TV thing here working so we can also click because you should see the pictures, man.
Yeah,
definitely go check out the
Look
pictures.
At that. They're very nice. It's a nice plane.
But I forgot that. I must not have read down to that detail. 2 bidets.
It has a couple bidets in it.
I heard I heard bidets are starting to become more popular.
Yeah,
in America.
Yeah, no, and I mean, spare no expense for the immigrants we're kicking out of the country. they need a bidet as they're being flown to Cameroon.
I'm sure they're going to be flown out in that luxury jet. That thing.
Yeah.
Oof.
It was one of those where you read that and think, just how stupid do you think we are? And then you realize, okay, well, we've already pretty much established how stupid they think we are.
Yeah, I mean, the bar is pretty goddamn low.
Yeah.
Hell of a week, man. As you said, so much stuff to do. Let's explore the space.
Yeah.
Down to the state legislature, my favorite bill of the week was an effort to outlaw pot smoke.
Yeah.
Not pot.
Pot smoke.
Smoke. The smell, the odor. J.D. Mesner's bill. I believe there's two measures. There's a bill to make it law, and then there is a SCR, a ballot measure to send it to the ballot. And it would declare the smell and odor of pot smoke to be a public and criminal nuisance.
I mean,
I don't like the smell of it myself, but I don't know.
I got to be honest, I'm kind of rooting for it, man. As someone who lives downwind from an enthusiast,
well, you went to Oregon, so you're very familiar with it.
Yeah, no, I spent 10 years in Eugene.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the scent, and generally not a fan. So, gobble up the edibles all you want, man, but don't create the cloud of weed. At least we're not turning into Denver. I was in Denver a couple months ago, which is a great city. Love my time there. Fabulous. But, man, it is a constant cloud walking around that place.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the smell. If it is everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll go running through my neighborhood at night, and you're constantly getting hit with that odor.
Yeah.
So, what else has piqued your interest this week?
I don't know. I've been glued to the Olympics for 2 weeks. I'm missing out on everything else. Any nuances of curling you want to know? I've been glued to the curling. Been watching a lot of the hockey now. Just saw the Canada has advanced to the gold medal game.
Oh,
in men's hockey.
I've been not paying attention. They
played this morning, and I think I told you earlier that it was said it wasn't. The U.S. plays Slovakia, I think, either this afternoon or tomorrow. Well, it might be right as we're taping this. I'm not sure. And then Canada won their game earlier. So Canada's in the gold medal match. USA has a good chance of facing Canada in the gold medal match.
Oh, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Everything I've read is that's kind of what everybody wants.
Yeah. And the Canadian team is just ungodly stacked. It's a really, really good team.
Yeah, so. I'm going to try to get into hockey. I've been trying to get into hockey again this year. I should have been watching more of the Olympic stuff because that's been really compelling from what I understand.
Yeah.
But the international game is a bit different. It's a lot more ice. It's a bigger arena.
Well, ordinarily, yes, except they screwed up the arena.
Oh, boy.
As they were building it, so it's not bigger.
Okay.
It's usually bigger. They had a lot of problems with the Olympic arena, from my understanding. It should be a bigger sheet of ice, and it's not a bigger sheet of ice. But yeah, the games have been great, very compelling. Did you see the gold medal figure skating win last night for Alyssa Liu?
No.
Of the U.S.?
No, I do not.
I don't give a shit about figure skating. I should preface.
Yeah, I was going to say I aggressively avoid figure skating.
I don't really like any sport that involves judging.
Right?
And I just don't care about the figure skating. It was pretty cool. She had quit the sport a while back and was just burned out, didn't want to do it, and then eventually came back. And everyone always seems so completely wound tight during their competition, and it's nerve-wracking. And she looked like she was just out there having fun, just skating around, having a great time. She skated to Donna Summer's version of MacArthur Park. And just visually, her hair is dyed in stripes, and she has the most unpleasant-looking piercing, and I mean unpleasant if it's in your face. She's got a piercing in her mouth that has lightning bolts hanging down in front of her teeth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I assumed they were glued on or something, and that she would take them off after the competition. I was informed, no, that's a piercing that she did herself.
Okay.
And she's just this, 20-something looking kid who is just sort of, it's like she's on, playing with house money now because she'd already given it up and decided she didn't want the stress and dealing with it. And then I think realized I can just go back and have fun and not be stressed. And had an absolutely flawless, beautiful performance. Looked like she was having a great time. I'm sure NBC appreciated it as she skated off the ice and looked in the camera and yelled, "That's how we fucking do it."
Well, you gotta feel like if she's left the sport and then decided to come back, you probably feel like you're playing with house money at that point.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like,
just go out there, have fun, do your best, and, if you don't win a medal, well, you quit before. You can do it again.
You've been out of the sport before.
You've already figured out there are other things in life.
This is true.
Yeah.
Oh, man. For me, man, I'm just happy Cactus League is starting.
Yeah.
Although I will not be attending a single game. I really don't understand if you live here, unless you got a team you grew up and you still love and you watch and they play out here and you go check out a game. It's like my team. I dig the Diamondbacks. I still pay attention to the St. Louis Cardinals a little bit, but and they play out in Florida. But for me, it's like, why don't I just wait a month and then go check a game that really matters, that really counts?
I would say the answer to that is it doesn't match the atmosphere of the Cactus League games. There's just something very fun about the more informal game at the nice outdoor, smaller stadium.
It's just as expensive, though.
That's the thing. That's the killer. And a year or two, I did a story where I looked into it and discovered that for a lot of these teams, you can go see them in the games that count in their home stadiums with comparable seats for less money. Mm-hmm. Like the Giants, it's cheaper to go to whatever the hell they call that park now. And I'm old enough that I was about to say Candlestick. But you can get comparable, if you're first, I think I looked at first row of the upper deck. It was cheaper to do that in San Francisco than it is at
and if you're in Chicago or Midwest, I get this is a great excuse to get the hell out of that shitty weather.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm like, hell yeah. But living here for me, I'm just like, I'll wait a month and go watch a game that actually counts.
Yeah. And the price is a killer to me. To spend. Yeah, I mean, if it's two of you and you grab a hot dog and something, you're looking at $100 to go see a game where there's 50-50 shot you're going to know anyone on the field. Yeah. Maybe you get the actual team and maybe you get the AA guys. Yeah. And you don't know.
Because when I first...
Thankfully, I'm an Angels fan, so the real team and the AA team, there's just a negligible difference there.
You mentioned something that maybe you might be trying to be...
I may be off that narcotic for a while. I'm about done with the Angels.
Yeah, you're maybe going to try the D-backs? Going to try them on?
I mean, I already root for the D-backs. I like the D-backs. I cheer for the D-backs. I'll go to the occasional D-backs game. No, the great moral quandary I have is, as a child, I also rooted for the Dodgers growing up there. Oof. Can I make that jump? Can I jump from an adult fan of the Angels to an adult fan of the Dodgers?
I don't think so.
It's hard to not look like a front-running jackass if you
that's my point.
Yeah.
Because, you've heard me describe the Dodgers, they're not a baseball team. They're a hedge fund.
Yeah.
It's like rooting for a hedge fund.
A very successful one, though.
Hey, man, extremely successful one.
I will say the vibe at the games I really dug.
I enjoy watching that team, actually. Yeah. I mean, if you like if you don't like baseball, you're not going to enjoy watching it. But if you enjoy watching baseball, how could you not enjoy watching that team?
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks when your team is playing them because, every batter is like, well, there's a future Hall of Famer. Yes. There's a future Hall of Famer. but as it is right now, it's just like there's a former MVP. There's a former MVP.
It struck me watching the World Series last year when I want to say they walked Shohei Ohtani, I think, intentionally, so they could pitch to Freddie Freeman.
Yeah. Think about how insane that is.
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman was MVP 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes,
it's still in his prime or the back half of his prime. He's not old.
Yeah. No, still a great player, but they'll walk guys to pitch to him because the guys who they're walking are in the argument for the greatest baseball player in the history of the game.
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't seen that since Barry Bonds was whacking everything out of the park.
When they walked him when he was with the bases loaded.
Yeah, when they walked in runs.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate respect there, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, I'm trying to cut back on the Angels thing. It does me no good.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
You care to share that story real quick? How did you get from Dodgers to Angels? Because that's a hard turn, man.
Well, I mean, when I was,
yeah.
I mean, as a
Do you
kid,
remember,
I
or
just rooted for both.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those fans that gets pissed off on stuff and then I'm sort of done. I remember as a kid, they had the infield of Garvey, Lopes, Bill Russell? It was Bill Russell.
Garvey, Lopes,
Russell, and Ron Say, third. And Steve Yeager catching. And that was their lineup year after year after year.
Dude, Steve Yeager was one of my favorite baseball cards because he had those aviators on one of them.
And a flap.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. He's awesome.
And then one year they just decided, well, we got these guys who've been stuck in the minors for years, so we need to unload these guys and bring up these guys from the minors. So Garvey went to and I was never a Garvey fan, but he went to the Padres, and they brought up the guy from AAA.
Was this pre or post Garvey scandal?
I think it was pre. I don't think this stuff really got out until he was in San Diego.
Back when Carson had a joke like honk if you're Steve Garvey's kid or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then became a joke that he went to the Padres, which just seemed fitting.
Yes.
So anyway, as a kid, that pissed me off that they broke up that team, and so I just sort of kind of focused on the Angels. Because even growing up in Orange County, the entire focus of all the media, everything in Southern California is the Dodgers. No one's ever given a shit about the Angels. But I grew up 15 minutes from a game. If I was going to a game, it was an Angels game.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
So I just sort of stuck with them, and it's gotten me nothing. Just a miserable team owned by a horrid owner.
Yeah.
If they have a choice to make in any given situation, they will do the wrong thing. They'll bring in terrible people and pay them hundreds of millions of dollars. The best thing they've done this offseason is buy out a guy.
Morello, right? What's his name?
Artie Moreno.
Moreno, yeah.
Morello was the Coyotes' terrible owner. Wrong terrible owner.
Moreno or Bidwell?
Artie Moreno. I'll take Bidwell.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
At least Bidwell hasn't promised to sell the team and then gone, kidding. Which Artie Moreno did.
I would almost think, though, if anybody bought the Angels, it would almost behoove them to move them somewhere else.
I mean, they're in a great spot.
Yeah.
It's, they do great in attendance. The stadium is in a perfect place. They also can't agree on how to renovate it and how to create retail space around it because it's one of those old school stadiums that's surrounded by just a massive parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you could do something with the parking lot. Throw in put in a couple garages, and you could have an incredible retail entertainment complex there. But they tried to do that a few years ago, and everyone was so intent on fleecing the taxpayers and turning it into a giant scam that it died. Yeah.
Well, on that happy note.
Yeah.
You have anything fun planned this weekend?
No, I'm going to sit and relax and take it easy this weekend. It's been a hectic few weeks for me, so I'm not doing much of anything. You?
This is going to sound bougie. I want to see an art exhibit. There's an art exhibit I specifically want to see at the Phoenix Art Museum this weekend. And then I'll follow that up by playing some chess with a buddy of mine and maybe drinking a few adult beverages.
Enjoy that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Till next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the Google Store, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. See you next time.